Hello. Let's try this again. It's been a few days. It's our third week on the farm. We've had to work a lot, and we've been to a library event to promote the farm. We've been to an induction for the farmers market we'll be selling at. So we haven't actually had very much time to do farm things, but the ground has also been drying out, so we can't actually dig yet. Explains no excuses. But anyway, today we will be starting, or I will be starting, lots of our tomato plants. And our tomatoes come from various sources. Some of the seeds I've saved myself, some are from our mentor, who sadly passed away this year, and some are from my dad's friend, Mark Gravel. Thank you, Mark Gravel. So some of the calculations that we've been doing are how many plants you might need. This is just a glimpse at the madness within, but we will be doing 300 rows, 300 feet of tomatoes in 6 50-foot rows. They will be spaced at 2 feet apart each, and so we need 150 plants. One of these trays is 128 cells, but I'm going to be overseeding the tomato plants. I'm going to put at least 2 seeds in each cell. Some of this is because the seed is a bit old and I'm not sure how well it will germinate, but the other half of this is to do with our plant breeding side of things. So we are trying to select for plants that grow best under how we germinate them, how we grow them, our conditions. And so by overseeding, you get more of a choice of which plants you're going to plant and which plants you're going to choose. We're probably going to end up with a lot of spare tomato plants, which we will either sell at the farmer's market or give out to friends and family. But that's a good way to actually test your seed and also breed better plants. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to dig up a lot of stumps in the field before we subsoil it and then till it and also mow it and then cover it. There's a lot of things coming up. So for seeding, we are trying out 2 different types of compost. The first one is Whitney organic potting soil, and for that we have to add additional perlite to retain moisture. And then the other one we're trying out is Fox Farm Soil and Fertilizer Company, their potting soil, their ocean forest potting soil, which already has perlite in it, and you can see quite a visible difference between these two. This one is a lot of wood chips, which we've been picking out, and this one is just luscious and probably gonna hold water better. So we are doing the way more expensive, this is double the price, potting soil for our most expensive crops, so tomatoes, peppers, aubergine. Okay, I did not do this on purpose, but we are starting 16 varieties of tomato, and there are 16 rows in this cell tray, so I'm going to do 1 row for each variety of tomato. And I'm starting with the cherry tomatoes up at this top end, and I will label it so that we know what's going on in each one. But this is for me to look back on in case I fuck up. Okay, next up on Magda does farming while Zach's at work, because he did farming while I was at work and took out all of the stumps that are in a pile over there. Who will win? Me and these 3 tools, or this tiny stump? I think I know the answer. Nice. 2 down, thousands more to go. So this is the compost delivery from Spurt. They're going to come in like this and then reverse down here and dump it there, mainly because this is on an angle, and if they flipped the truck up like this, it might also flip this way, and we'd prefer to not capsize any trucks today. One of the problems we're going to be having is with these roots. So we're going to have to put the tiller through and then cut them out every time it snags up the tiller. So it's going to be interesting. We're also going to be putting gypsum down in these 2 blocks, because they're the most clayey, and that will hopefully break up some of the clay and compaction and just like give it a little bit more, yeah, a little bit more.
Big day at the farm. We got our compost delivered, about 25 yards over there, and we are tilling. So those are going to be blocks 3 and 4, the southernmost blocks, and then these blocks over here are going to be blocks 1 and 2. Magda already spread some gypsum on the soil over here just because we have a lot of clay, so that will get tilled in soon. These blocks, after they get tilled, we're just going to be covering them right away with the tarps, and then tomorrow and Friday we're going to spend the days shaping our beds in blocks 3 and 4 and applying compost. So goal is to try to get all the beds shaped by Friday. Would be really cool. So we'll see where we're at. One of the most frustrating but also most necessary parts of this whole process is measuring out our beds. So we're using the string, rulers, and pieces of rebar to shape the bed. Each one is going to be 2.5 feet wide by 50 feet long. Right now, Magda is at the far end of the block, so that's 100 feet. But basically, so we'll be getting 2 beds from each of these rectangles here. So Magda's making sure it's nice and tight. And then what we're going to do is start moving dirt from this path. There'll be like a 15-inch path in between each bed. We're going to just move the dirt onto the pile to sort of make a sort of a domed bed. Once that's completed and shaped, then we'll go here, cover it all with our hay, and then cover it with our compost. So it's a multi-step process here, and it is never easy, but we're getting started. So
we're a third of the way through. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 beds out of 13 done. Halfway there. We've got 6 beds done. There's that carded work while I stand here. We're certainly slowing down, and we figured out that actually we'd been measuring everything wrong, but we're just going to vibe with it, so that's okay. It's called adapting. You can see I've worked out. And that's us winding up the last string. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 beds. So we only need to fit 1 more in, so we're going to need to do a little bit more tilling down here. Ta-da! 3 hours work. Straw bale unboxing video. It's just gonna... That's a lie, it's not. Ta-da! More dandelions than yesterday.
quick little lesson learned here. It's really hard to rake compost that's on top of straw or hay like this, especially when you're trying to do a pretty thin coating. The hay just gets caught in the rake, as I'm sure seems obvious now, but yeah, so we decided to pivot a little bit. We're gonna do compost on the beds first and save the hay as a mulch for stuff like our winter and summer squash, and probably use it on like our tomatoes and other crops like that. So
started just before 8 and we are 8 beds in, 2/3 of the way. Our tomatoes, we've been having absolutely shit germination on them, so we've got some heat mats set up for them. And the peppers are finally starting to pop. The aubergine come up great. Peppers, but yeah, so we're going to heat these guys up, and just, they prefer bottom heat, and we should have done this earlier basically, but I'm hopeful. So our second block was tilled in the night by the sweet tractor fairy that is Barry, our landlord, which is super cool because now we know where all our blocks are going to be. There's this one and that one is pretty much ready to plant. So our next thing that we're going to be doing is putting a fence up, which seems counterintuitive but isn't, because the pipes for the water aren't here yet. Also Barry moved us some compost, which is great, but So this is pretty much ready to go. He tilled us an extra bed, and then we're going to put a fence all around the outside of all of this. So our next task, probably on Thursday. And then once the pipe arrives, we're going to be drilling the pipe all the way along 300 feet to be able to irrigate here. Which is cool because some of the lettuce and stuff is looking like it's a week away from being planted, which, you know, puts us on a bit of a tight schedule, but it's also pretty fun and exciting in terms of we can actually plant shit soon. Okay, that's me. I got eaten by bugs, so I look like shit. And that's it, one top down in 20 minutes by myself just before work. I now have to go to my paying job, otherwise I'd put the other top down, but ta-da! We're going to be doing occultation underneath that top, which is where you kill all the plants using the power of the sun. Sounds witchy as shit. We're going to put down another top after work today, which is going to be cool. It's very exciting, things are coming together. We found a couple of eggs on the floor, and it seems, well, we found them here, it seems like they got thrown out of this nest, so we're gonna get the ladder and put them back up and see if they'll hatch. But they seem kind of cold, so probably not, but they are wild blue. If I knew birds, which I refuse to learn, I would know what they were.